sensitive issue. Where I come from, this issue has raised a lot of tensions. And therefore, let me ask two questions. Deputy President William Ruto, security has been downgraded suddenly. Was this move justified? And if so, why now? In the countdown to general election, all presidential aspirants have been, it has been a tradition, our cabinet secretary, that their security are reinforced. And me personally, I believe in unity in diversity. I'm a man who took my heart. The great gospel singer, an Israeli, once said, truth is constant. According to Article 131 of our Constitution, A, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta is the President, head of states and government. According to Article 131B, he is the Chairman of Security Council. According to Article 131C, he is the Commander-in-Chief of Kenya Defense Forces, 5-star General. And according to Article 131E, he is the symbol of national unity, Cabinet Secretary. Whereas, according to Article 130, William Ruto is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, as well as his principal assistant. Their relationship with the President are like conjoined twins. Their relationship are symbiotic. You can't separate the two. You are suitable enough, you are competent enough, you are a scholar to interpret the Constitution. I, William Chepkuta, I took an oath of office to protect, to uphold, and defend the supremacy of our constitutional institution and its constitutional institutions like DPP and IBC, just but to mention a few. Having said that...
Okay, member, now ask the question. You have laid the background.
Yeah.
Now ask the question.
Having said that, Cabinet Secretary, I submit with a lot of, because we want to tolerate each other. Let's tolerate each other, let's forgive each other, let's commit each other, let's accommodate each other. I want you, it is my sincere request, that return the security of Deputy President. That is my submission.
You will be able to take that, Honorable Alberi.
Thank you, Chair.
And if I may give guidance so that we allow other members also to be able to ask questions. Don't put too much of background. If you can be able to raise the question directly.
I want to just go straight to the question, Chair. Chairman, having listened to the Cabinet Secretary explaining, giving us the background of the whole scenario, which we indeed appreciate, that I thought, going by what the media has actually been portraying, is that the highly trained security officers deployed to the Deputy President were the GSU. And after their withdrawal, then the Deputy President is exposed. That is the picture I had. However, I appreciate actually the way the Cabinet Secretary has explained, and I'm actually contented that indeed the Deputy President has all the security required for his protection. However, as a matter of national security concern, I want to ask, did the Cabinet Secretary inform the Deputy President about these security changes, either in writing or verbally, so that he may understand that there are some changes which are about to take place, and therefore he should be made aware? That is one. Secondly, Chairman, I also would like to ask the Cabinet Secretary, other than the security personnel, the physical officers deployed to provide security within the establishments, either the deputy president or even the president or other dignitaries, as explained in Annex 2, people who had served not only as vice presidents, because we have high dignitaries who have served all their life in serving our country, whether there are other technological gadgets, for instance, like CCTV or even drones for that matter. Because personnel will never be enough to provide security to each and everyone. But at least a gadget like a drone, if properly used, can be able to give us information, and it can be able to provide all the security that is needed. Was that provided? Thank you.
Right, Honorable Masara.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the response given by the CS Interior, and we have the annexes which can explain much, but I want him to explain to the nation what Article 245 talks about the independence of Inspector General in commanding the police service in Kenya, so that everybody can understand. Two, the issue of protecting the deputy president. Have we reached a stage where the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya can be protected by G4S? I hope I'll get that answer. The third one is, can we get information on the property which were owned by previous vice presidents, so that we can compare vis-a-vis the number of officers given to the current DP? Chair. And finally, why is it that the CS is applying law selectively? We have been stopped from meeting people in our homes as elected representatives of the people, but the official residence of the deputy president is hosting thousands and thousands of people every day, and they are being protected by the same Kenya police. Yet, even where he comes from, a deputy governor of Kisii was stopped from holding a meeting in his home. But the second house in the land holds meeting despite COVID protocols being breached. Can we get information if we are in this country or one country or two countries? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that last bit, the CS, you have discretion to answer or not, because we want to deal specifically with security issues. CS, respond to those four, and then we'll pick another round.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, honorable members. A total of about 8 questions. I will be very specific, very precise in responding to them. What determines the numbers? We go by requests and what you may describe broadly as expanse. You know, Mr. Chairman, if you become the deputy president of the country and you are also coming from the business background, or you have capacities, not all of us, there are Kenyans who have 2-3 homes, there are Kenyans who have 1 home, and we are different people. We are not going to stop, insist on, we don't have a president in this country where there's a limit to how many installations we can look after and so on. Plus, you see, my colleagues and I in the security sector live in this fear all the time that should anything happen to a senior leader in government, like the deputy president, do not only embarrass the country and subject all of us to ridicule, it will be difficult to explain to the people of Kenya. So it depends on the expanse and what you have and what you don't have. And I think I could tie this to what Honorable Masara asked about whether I can provide the properties of the various other predecessors, I mean, to the holder of the current office. What I've given you is everything they had. If they didn't have a kiosk, they didn't have. We just gave them, they were given 22 police officers, that's all, to guide them around as they moved around. If they didn't have a school, they didn't have a school. You know, if they didn't have a place where they would go, if they didn't have a home in Isiolo, for example, so that that home also in Isiolo can be looked after. They didn't have it. So what I've given you, or what we drew from the police records, is all that was allocated. I mean, what Jaramogi was allocated is what he was allocated. What Musalia Mudavadi was allocated was what was allocated. That is his Nairobi home and his home in Vihiga. So if he didn't have a home in Isiolo, another one in Nakuru, another one somewhere else, it expands. It depends on the capacities and what you're able to have from time to time. The police will go that particular way. That is how they are guided in that particular respect. So the numbers are not necessarily determined by us. In fact, I dare say that if we would be absolutely honest and tell you that if we matched all the requests that are being made from certain offices in cases like this, we can't afford it. It becomes very difficult. But it also depends on the expanse. Who is where, what, who has what, where, who goes where, and so on. If today a Mazimbo teacher become the deputy president and my home is only one or two, that's what will be protected, and that's what happens to all leaders and so on. So how does this sit with the ratio? Well, we've been working very hard, Mr. Chairman, and as our security committee, that we are barely moved to a ratio of 1 to 600 in terms of police to population. We are racing against the UN ratio of 1 to 450. But look, there is a point to which you also, as leaders, need to understand the tradition and the way in which we have operated in the security sector in our country. I've seen people asking me questions, for example, saying, why do you provide security to this private facility? Or why do you provide security to look after somebody's chicken business and so on? And asking the converse is this: what if there was a notification by a local manager to a county police commander or a sub-county police commander that this property belongs to so and so, it needs to be looked after, and then they didn't look after that and something happened? We would be facing the same problems we are facing now. We would be accused, we don't care protecting other people's property, it's being destroyed while we are watching, and so on and so forth. We're in a catch-22 situation. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But the situation is what it is. It's not a decision that is made willy-nilly by the Inspector General of Police and the people in the security sector. Some of it is driven by demand, some of it is driven, as said, by secondary notifications from personnel and people who are associated with these offices. It is not a burden to us. Let me say that. It has not become a burden to us yet. We are able to provide security, and we are able to continue supporting the office of the Deputy President. The question that was asked by Honorable Jabukut about downgrading the security of the Deputy President, we haven't downgraded the security of the Deputy President. In fact, this is a propagandist approach to this, and almost a laughable thing to imagine. With this level of personnel, and I've not talked about the assets that we have deployed. If you knew the assets that we have deployed in providing, you cannot talk about downgrading the security of the Deputy President. The rearrangement is an action that was done by the Inspector General. As I said, I wouldn't explain the details of it in an open meeting like this. But it's not whimsical. It's considered, in order. The Inspector General takes decisions after so many considerations, as it were. And as I said, he would consult, colleagues in the security sector. He would go to NSAC and other organs. He doesn't just decide off, on top of his mind like that. Did the CS inform the DP? This is routine. Honestly speaking, if we were not in the political context in which we are as a country, there are times when some of us wake up in the morning and wonder, what is wrong with us as a country? The things that we spend time talking about and so on, this is really routine. If you ask anybody today, Mr. Chairman, if you walked here to Jail House and asked the regional commissioner for Nairobi, who are the chief inspectors around Nairobi, he wouldn't tell you. Because we keep moving them around from time to time. He will turn up at Kilimani, and a gentleman will introduce himself. I'm the chief inspector of police, this is what I do, and so on. It's routine work. So, are you going to spend your time, every time you are doing routine work? Our job is routine, to make sure that we protect the VVIPs in our midst. So, are you going to spend time talking about routine things? For the IG, the rearrangement is a quasi-routine assignment. And then this is not something for which I would write a letter, His Excellency the Deputy President, or why would I write a letter about I mean, then I would be writing 10 or 15 letters, because how many times have we reorganized personnel, not just there or in any other installations? I would be writing a letter to every minister. Every time we rearrange security, I would be writing letters to every constitutional office holder, to the Speaker of the National Assembly, to the Chief Justice. Every time we rearrange.
Maybe CS, you can tell us, because you have stationed, you said you stationed 74 GSU officers there. Are they constant, the same people, or do you keep changing them? And do you then address the DP, or do you tell him when you want to change them? Or they are the same people who started and are still there?
The presidential escort team is an exclusive team across the country. They are exclusive because they are trained, they are prepared for that job. The commanders of that team are people who have been working with His Excellency the Deputy President for a long time. We haven't changed them. That is the cause, as I showed you in Annex 1 of my document, that is the core team that provides security to His Excellency the Deputy President. Probably, actually, if you were changing those ones, you would have reason probably to tell the Deputy President. But these others are doing almost routine work. So why would you write a letter every day or inform him every day? The presidential escort team is intact. Its commanders are intact. They are the same people who have been working with him. They are there. He has not expressed any concern about any one of them. And they have been working with him all along. He has not raised any issue. And if he did, he would probably raise it with the Inspector General who's here, and the Inspector General has not informed me of any of that kind. But these others, like Layer 2, Layer 3, and so on, you can't be communicating on work that is supposed to be done by office holders like the Inspector General. They're basically doing their work. That's why some of us are actually wondering why the hullabaloo when we are doing the rearrangement that we are doing, or the Inspector General is doing the rearrangement that is doing. Have we deployed other technology to support the Office of the Deputy President? Mr. Chairman, I ask the indulgence of the committee. My colleagues here, the heads of the agencies, will not allow me to discuss operational issues and the difficult issue. All I can say here is that we have sufficient assets, and actually, because of the budget that you have given us consistently, our acquisitions have kept going up year in, year out. And we have acquired sufficient assets to protect our leaders. There is none of them who is in any particular danger. And of course, the Deputy President of the country is not in any danger at all. We have sufficient assets, we have sufficient personnel, we are fine, and we are protecting him without a problem. I would not like to go to operational issues and address those kinds of. The independence of the Office of the Inspector General, that is why sometimes we ask the question, do we actually respect this independence? When the Inspector General takes discretion because of information he has, makes presentations and raises issues and talks with us and so on and so forth, and then every so often we come back to excoriate him, to Mr. Chairman, as our leader in security, you know this, and all of you members of Parliament who belong to this committee, you know the number of decisions that the IG makes on a 24-hour cycle is incredible. We can't second guess them. They make these decisions independently, but of course they consult with the other organs of the security environment. And we all agree with them on this particular decision he made to make the rearrangement. We are all aligned, we are all agreed. I wish those who are actually raising concerns about this, especially because they have access to facts and they can get this information, they look for the information and facts about it. Allow me, Mr. Chairman, sir, to not comment anything about that issue of G4S. I don't want to trivialize the matters of this country and the security of our country in that kind of manner. I don't want to be that petty. I mean, we are a serious country. We are respected around the world. We are a serious government elected by the people of Kenya, given serious responsibilities. I would not like to comment and to be so flippant as to comment on things like those about G4S and so on. On the issue of, lastly, applying the law selectively, you gave me discretion to skip the answer, but suffice it to say, we are not applying the law selectively. Sometimes it boils down to people also taking moral responsibilities as national leaders, because it gets to that point. The lives of the people we lead is also a matter of your moral responsibility as a leader. Thank you, sir.
We will pick the second round. I'll pick Honorable Nimrod, Honorable Kingangi, and Honorable Ambogo.
Chair, before you go, a very important question of mine has not been sufficiently answered.
Which is it?
Article 245.
In regard to what?
The independent of the Inspector of General in managing the way it has been answered is not coming out clearly.
He has done. I thought he did. I was listening so carefully. He answered and he said that's an independent office.
So in short,
unless Honorable CS, you want to put in 2 words so that we also make progress. The other members also want to ask some questions.
Yes, Chair.
But let him go. Let him have a go at it again.
You know, Mr. Chairman, it's a raging debate that has been existing in this country for a very long time. When people talk about independent offices, you're independent from what? Because you see, government is organic in its nature. You know, the Inspector General exercises independence of command. In other words, in terms of deployment and making decisions on what he needs to do and how he executes his duties and so on. But that does not mean that the Inspector General does not work in an ecosystem of constant consultation. We have succeeded so far, and you should know as a security committee in Parliament, our war against terrorism in this country has been much more successful because of our multi-agents approach. We sit together, all of us, share intelligence and work together. That does not undermine the independence of the Office of the Inspector General. It doesn't undermine the independence of the Office of the CTF. In other words, in exercising his powers as the Inspector General of our country, Mr. Mutembei has taken a decision, run it by all of us, which we are happy with and we are all aligned, and the reasons for which he took the decision are sound and clear, and we accept them, and we support what he has done, especially because we know it has not introduced any gaps or exposed anyone to danger. So no one has infringed on the powers of the Office of the Inspector General. The Inspector General has not abused his powers. We have continued to work very well. I am satisfied with what he has done, and I have not forced him to make that decision. No one has forced him to make the decision, but he has been responsible enough to consult with us and share the information he has with us, and we agree with him. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Nimrod.
Thank you, Chair. First, allow me to start by conveying my confidence with the heads of our security services, that is the DCI, the 2 DIGs and the IG, on their training, on their capacity to do strategy and also command of our security organs. Mr. Chair, I have very straight and specific questions. My first question goes to, on Annex 1, Mr. CS, you said you never touched nothing on cordon 1, or the inner circle has been touched. But the second circle, that is the second cordon, was touched. There is some interest in 3 residents of the Deputy President. And within the 3 residents of the Deputy President, I think the one in Karen, which also doubles as his office, and another one in Isgoi, and I think it's Nakuru Endoret. That one is where the second cordon, we have GSU officers who are undertaking the guarding services of those residences. The GSU officers were interchanged with administration police service officers. There is also, apart from the interchanging, there is also the aspect that there were reduction in numbers. It was not 1-for-1, as in you remove 30 GSU officers and bring 8 administration police officers. So I would want clarity on that. Did we remove GSU officers doing the second circle within these 3 homes of the Deputy President and interchanged them with the administration police service officers? And in that, if that happened, in the course of it, did we reduce the numbers of the personnel, of the numbers of the officers? Number 2, how is the command in terms of, we are talking of, especially because the first layer and the second layer, these are people who are always with the Deputy President. And at some point, they will find themselves at the same place. Let's talk of the current home. the people guarding the general areas and the presidential escort unit. These are all armed officers, are all officers under the IG, no matter where they're coming from. How is the commander at that time? Who is in charge? As in now, we have administration police officers guarding the gates and the general areas. Then we have the commissioner of police. Then we have the presidential escort commander. Somebody somewhere, one of the officers has to be in charge of, at a certain point. We can't just have everybody in charge, 3 commanders from 3 different units taking charge of the same residence at a particular time. So who is in charge at that time? Mr. Chair, we are...
Last one, because there are many interests, please.
Mr. Chair, it's better we take the whole day here and accommodate these questions.
You can ask that question, Honorable, please. You can ask that question then in the second lot, because the others also want to ask one question each.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because the Chair, the person we are talking about is in respect to what Honorable Chibugut has quoted on the Constitution, the duties of the President and what the President does to this country. In the same Constitution, in case there is absence in the offices of the President, the person we are discussing with the Deputy President is the person who will take charge immediately. So, actually this is like a spare President, and it's not an office that we can discuss anyhowly. Chair, let me go by your instructions. My last concern.
Order, let him finish.
Which is a concern, actually.
In the answer which need not to go.
Order, I'll give you order. Just finish. Move to finish.
Yeah, Masara Tulisa Boli. My third issue, let me leave one of the questions and go for a concern. I believe the action taken has, in a way, opened up our security agencies to unnecessary scrutiny. As in, there were no discussions before this action as to who is superior between the GSU and the APs. And now, the removal of the GSU and the bringing of the APs is the one which causing the aspect that there is some downgrading, that the security has been downgraded because the GSUs were superior to the APs. I think, Mr. Chair, that is something which should be addressed, and especially by the IG. It can't go out to the public there, because it means the other Kenyans who are being guarded by the APs out there, they are not as secure as they would be if they were being guarded by the GSU. So I think, and in the wisdom of his Excellency the Deputy President, actually he welcomed these officers, and he spoke about his confidence in the work they are going to do. And it was very clear in the media and in the public domain that he was comfortable with the APs who had been brought to his residence. So I would want to see the same, and especially from the office of the AG, a firefighting kind of mission to downplay that reasoning of there is one service which is superior to another. Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, just 1 minute.
Yeah, Chair, these are House of Records. In our Constitution, there's nowhere written that we have a spare president. So I want on my to withdraw that statement, because it's nowhere. In our Constitution, there's no spare president.
Indeed, Honorable Mbai, did you refer to the Deputy President, His Excellency, as a spare president?
I never did, Chair.
Yeah, so if in case he did, then I order that we expunge that from the records. Honorable Kingangi. Thank you very much, Honorable Masal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me start by appreciating the security team. I have a lot of confidence in Kenyan security apparatus, their professionalism, and the organization. Having said that, I think there's a question that the chairman alluded to, and other members have also asked. And it is a bigger question of the public right now. The reason why. Why did the change have to be done? Why now? And given the fact that the service standing orders and even the Act give the GSU the responsibility for State House and state lodges. Unless one is arguing that the state lodges are so much superior to the official residence of the Deputy President, then even the question of downgrading can be argued that was a downgrade. Because if a state lodge which is visited even rarely, sometimes not visited even once a year, is being guarded by GSU, then one could even argue that it is a downgrade. Secondly, the strength of a security force is not the strength of the person standing at the post. It is the strength of the chain of command, it is the strength of the depth, the backup, as we would call it. For instance, the G company that guards the State House is backed up by a Recce company, which has got sufficient equipment, training, and it is configured as to enable that force to intervene if the need be, to be able to do whatever is necessary depending on the circumstances. So if you bring the SGB to the equation, then what becomes of the chain of command? What becomes of the backup plan? How does it work? So the question why it was done, I think it's still pertinent, and I think it's a big question in the minds of the public. Finally, I don't want to dwell into this. I think as much as we talk about the inner security layer and the outer layer, it has been tradition, and it is also captured in the Act and the standing orders that the GSU does protect. So I don't believe, and I would like to be explained to how the Inspector General has discretion in changing something which is provided for by the Act and the standing orders. So my question is, why? Thank you.
Yeah, I hear that the bigger question around it is, are there GSU officers guarding the residence of the Deputy President? And I think I hear that everybody, and it's cutting across all members.
Let me clarify.
Yes.
The second layer, because that's the argument, that the second layer has been changed, the inner layer has not been changed. The second layer State House is still GSU G company, backed up by the Recce. And it would make sense. It would make sense when the second layer was GSU, backed up by the same Recce company, which has the capability and training to back up.
I get. Now the police chiefs are here. They'll be able to take that up. The last one was Honorable Muji.
But a point of order, Chair. I'll be asking my questions.
What is out of order? And you are in the next round.
Yes, I think as members of the Security Committee, we can also not just be throwing words. When you say State House should be guarded as same officers as the residence of the Deputy President, there should be reference to the law and the standing orders. And Honorable Kingangi, the law talks about State House, state lodges, the President and the Deputy President, not the residence of the Deputy President.
Yes, in fact, I had wanted that to come from the Honorable CS so that they can give us details. I had that question, but let him clarify on that. Honorable Ambu.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will actually start my question from where Honorable Kaluma has just gone in. I wanted to ask I wanted to ask the CS to clarify for us, according to the law. We have seen the act, we have seen it being shared very widely. I have heard my colleague Honorable Kenyatta suggest that the Deputy President's residence should be above State Lodge. That's where I just understood him to be suggesting right now. But the law is very clear. We have the President as a person, the Deputy President as a person, state houses and state lodges being guarded by GSU. What I now wanted to understand, what is the definition of the Deputy President's residence according to the law? Is it categorized into something that then becomes part of what is in the law to be guarded? That's my first question. My second question goes towards timing. We live in this country, all of us, and I'm sure even you are very alive to the fact of the politics. Thank you. I think this is better. But I'm sure you had the first question, so I'll just go to the second one. We live in the country where we are very alive to the politics of the day, and I'm sure you knew that the decision you made was going to be politicized. And I wonder whether you actually factored in how you are going to deal with that. In this time and age, there are going to be people who are going to take a decision like that and make political capital out of it. And I say this because of the very interesting observation I have made. The principal himself, in this case who is the Deputy President, is on record saying he has no problem with the changes that have been made. However, his allies, every single day, are using this to play politics with. And so the question now I have on this...
Point of order, Chair.
You will allow me
You will allow him to finish, just
when
like...
you are allowed to finish.
Yes.
But
You are allowed you
I
to
think there
finish.
is something that should not continue.
Honorable Mbai, I allowed you to finish, and then I took the point of order. That's how we shall conduct business.
Thank you very much, Chair. The question I was making is, it is on record. The principal himself has said he has no problem with the security arrangement that he has. His allies are the ones who are playing politics with this issue. And now the question I have is, we have a public letter from the Chief of Staff of the principal complaining about this. Then we have the principal himself saying he has no problem. At this moment in time, who do we engage with? Do we engage with the public statements from the principal, as security officers, yourselves and us? Or do we engage on the public or the official statement from the Chief of Staff, or from the issues that are coming up from the allies? My third question. We have a situation, and I want to, it's something about order of command. It has been raised by a couple of my colleagues here, the issue of when you bring in new formations around the Deputy President, is there a structure that takes over that formation and says that now you have come in around the Deputy President, you report to this particular officer, or what exactly happens? I ask that for this reason. When we have a situation where a VVIP has security officers